Hello everyone, it's your Peacekeeper. Welcome back to the Gaming Lounge. It is time for the next video in our How to Play series on the French battleship line. This is the Tier 10 Republique class of battleships, and it's a paper ship, made up almost entirely by wargaming. In fact, outside of the main battery, the anti-aircraft guns and secondary battery, this ship is entirely made up by wargaming. And these guns were designed roughly in the 1930s and were kind of rejected due to weight reasons. The secondary battery is shared with many of the cruisers in the post-war era, as well as a couple of the other modernized battleships. And so as a result, you've got some interesting secondary battery configuration. And, well, since there's not really any service history to talk about, we'll just skip straight to the in-game playstyle. Putting it bluntly, Republique is probably the biggest Tier 10 bully ship in the game. It sports a fairly decently large caliber, 431mm in the main battery, and a very, very quick reload. With the full reload module, just 21.1 seconds. This makes this ship able to put out an insane amount of DPM for a ship this powerful. And it's not poorly armored either, so it's not like this ship is a glass cannon. But like all the French battleships, especially the high-tier ones, these ships are primarily flanking battleships, which means that if you can get on the flank of an enemy team with this ship and get broadside targets, you are going to get a lot of Citadel hits because you've got good penetration, very good shell damage, decent muzzle velocity. There's really no downsides to this. To add off on top of all of this, the secondary battery is actually quite potent. Even not spec'd into secondaries, it's quite potent. The use of the speed boost consumable can more than make up for any deficiencies in speed. It can also make up for more than a few deficiencies in the maneuverability department, which makes this ship probably the single most maneuverable of the Tier 10 battleships. The biggest downside to this ship is its gun layout. I really, really wish that Republique could have been like a Tier 10 Richelieu or a Tier 10 version of Dunkirk, but we didn't get that. Instead, we got basically a Tier 10 version of Gascon, and it's probably for the better in the long run. Needless to say, this ship's main battery is fantastic. It is by far its strongest part. The secondary battery is nice for discouraging destroyers from getting too close. It's got good range, good rate of fire, good firing arcs in general, and the shells do pretty decent damage and they reload reasonably quick. But that's not how I have this ship set up, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the upgrades. The anti-aircraft defense is also quite good. Not even speccing into AA at all, with the exception of advanced firing training on the captain, we have a 98 rating. Stop and think about that for a minute. We have to spec into AA on Montana to get anywhere near this number, let alone over this number. And I don't even have basic firing training on this captain yet, which is its next skill. That's pretty impressive. The anti-aircraft is nothing to joke about. It really isn't. It holds its own quite well at Tier 10. With the Hakuru and Midway, it holds its own against the Tier 9s and the Tier 8s. It just absolutely wrecks face. I had a game earlier today with a Tier 8 carrier in the fight, and he sent wave after wave of aircraft at me. I ended up shooting down 20 of the aircraft, which was about 6 more than our aircraft carrier shot down. That was the highest in the game for aircraft shootdowns. So the AA is pretty good as well. We already talked about the maneuverability. The only other downside is the concealment, which really isn't that far off from Montana. And so this ship is a lot of fun. It really is a lot of fun. And I've got a fantastic battle video to show just what this ship can do in the right circumstances when you get a flank and are able to push the enemy. It's impressive. So Okay, so that's enough of the in-game playstyle. Let's go ahead and look at the stats. The main battery survivability, 92,400 hit points. Not the most, not the least. Pretty middle of the road. Armor up to 590 millimeters thick, which is going to be the turret faces. This ship still seems to be susceptible to losing the main battery, so if you're not careful and somebody is aiming at them directly and they aren't angled at all away to help, make the effective thickness of this armor thicker, it suffers from the same problem that all the other high-tier French battleships have, in that it can lose turrets. 39% torpedo damage reduction. I can tell you that will do nothing against Japanese torpedoes because they do a lot of damage to begin with. So that's always something to keep in mind. But as far as tier 10 battleships go, it's not too bad. Main battery, 2 quad, 431mm, 50 caliber, 1940 guns. Again, 21.1 second reload time. That's going to be with the reload module. HE shell damage, 6,300 with a 48% fire chance. So if you would like to use HE, you can. Please don't. It doesn't really need it. This AP shell is unbelievable. It's got great penetration even against things that are bow onto you. If you hit superstructure or conning tower, it makes pretty good short work of it. Speaking of that AP shell, the total damage, 14,500 on a Citadel hit. Max battery, main battery firing range, 26.1 kilometers. Both the AP and HE have an 840 meters per second shell velocity, so you don't have to think about when you switch. You don't have to think about your shell velocity. In terms of secondary battery, we have 8 dual 5-inch guns. Here they are. They are also dual purpose. And they actually have reasonable firing arcs for once. You can see we really only have one to the rear, but we've got a whole stack of 3 on each side going towards the front. And they all engage at a reasonably good angle. You don't have to angle a whole lot in order to bring them all to bear. You also have 3 triple 152mm guns. You can see we have 2 mounted up front and a third in the rear. Secondary battery firing range without any secondary upgrades, with the exception of advanced firing training, just 10.6 kilometers. I think that's with the secondary flag as well. So you can boost this an additional 20% on top of this if you spec fully into secondaries. And yes, both the 5-inch and the 6-inch guns hit that. In terms of anti-aircraft defense, we have 12 dual 57mm 60 caliber ACAD MLE 1951 guns. 5.4 kilometer is your, that's where your AA bubble stops. Like, that is the shortest range that you have, is 5.4K. 306 damage per second at that point. By the way, this outpaces the 20mm Orlikins on Montana by light years. Then we go out to our 5-inch and 6-inch guns, out to 6 kilometers for the 6-inch guns and 6.2 for the 5-inch guns. And you can see we've got a fairly healthy amount of DPS all the way around. And that's without speccing into any anti-aircraft skills aside from advanced firing training. Maneuverability, 30 knots. That's going to be without the speed flag. Yes, without the speed flag. 980 meter turning circle, 14.6 second rudder shift time. So large turning circle, reasonably slow rudder shift time. So how is this one of the most maneuverable, if not the most maneuverable battleship at this tier? Well, it comes down to the fact that this ship has access to the speed boost consumable, and we talked about this a little bit in the Richelieu and Alsace videos, that the speed boost allows the ship to accelerate and decelerate quicker, and so you can throw off people's torpedo and aim at longer ranges by just slamming on the brakes and turning in. You can do that also by, even at closer ranges, with torpedoes, by slamming on the brakes and turning in to slow this ship down. This thing weighs anchor. I'm telling you, it's like they drop the anchors, all 3 of them, off the front of the ship, and it just comes to a screeching halt. And as a result, you can do some pretty impressive things with it that normally a battleship at this tier would not be able to do. Detection range by sea at 13.5 kilometers, not the stealthiest at tier 10, but far from the worst. detection range by air of 13 kilometers. All right, let's talk about some upgrades. You can see I am running Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1 for the 100% increase in hit point pool of the secondaries and anti-aircraft battery. This is actually really effective for both, obviously, and this ship does well in both departments, so it's not lacking in either one. So this is a good, solid option for that. These other options, the main battery, while you can lose them, is much less prone than Alsace or Richelieu are, so you don't really see a need to take main armaments mod 1. Magazine mod 1, it's a battleship, they don't get detonated that often. In the second slot, I'm taking Damage Control Systems mod 1 for the 5% reduction of the chance of catching fire, as well as a 3% reduction in the chance of flooding. These other options here, Propulsion mod 1 and Steering Gears mod 1 are the same thing. 20% reduction in the chance of them being incapacitated, as well as a 20% reduction in the time it takes to repair them. The battleships generally don't lose either or, and if they do, it's generally you have a repair party up, and even if you don't, you've got enough armor and hit points that you can tank some. Of course, if you have the Special Engine Boost mod, you could do this. That will increase the action time of the Speed Boost consumable by 50%. In the third slot, I am running Aiming Systems mod 1 for the 7% reduction in the dispersion of the main battery. This also increases the secondary battery firing range by 5% and decreases the dispersion of the secondary battery by 5%. You could spec this into secondaries, plus 20% to the firing range. It's going to take your 10.6 out to like 13 something, or 12 something, like 12.9. Pretty far range. And, yeah. Also 20% reduction of the dispersion of your main battery, or secondary battery. And you could also spec this fully into anti-aircraft for an additional 20% in the AA firing range. Yeah, very strong in that role as well. Not really giving up much to get it. Main battery mod 2, this ship really doesn't need any help within the turret traverse department, and decreasing the reload time on this already ridiculous reload time would be a bad thing in my opinion. In the fourth slot, I'm running Steering Gears mod 2 for the 20% reduction in the rudder shift time. You could also run Damage Control Systems mod 2 for a 15% reduction in the time it takes to recover from flooding or fire. Personally, I prefer Steering Gears mod 2. This just allows me to avoid taking those hits as opposed to taking those hits. And, it allows me to better avoid them. It may not allow me to avoid them entirely. It just kind of depends. But that's the one I would personally recommend. Propulsion mod 2, the ship shouldn't really be stationary very often or for very long. And Speed Boost does a very good job of replacing that upgrade. In the fifth slot, I am running Concealment Systems mod 1 for the 10% reduction in the detection range of the ship, as well as the 5% increase in the dispersion of shells fired at you. You could take Target Acquisition Systems mod 1 if you wanted to, but really the only thing that's useful on this, in my opinion, is the 20% acquisition range of torpedoes. The 20% increase in spotting range, it doesn't really matter, and the 50% increase in the assured acquisition range of enemy ships from 2 to 3 kilometers. If you're that close to it, it's probably a destroyer in smoke, which means it has torpedoes, and that's bad. In the last slot, I'm running Main Battery mod 3, which decreases the reload time by 12%, as well as decreases the traverse speed by 13%. This allows us to get to that 21.1 reload time, which is just insane. Did I mention that that's insane? This thing has 8 431mm guns. No other battleship at this tier has anywhere close to that reload. It's just, I don't recommend running anything else, really. I suppose if you want to max out in AA guns, here's 25% increase in the DPS of the AA guns. Here is the 20% reduction in the secondary battery reload time for the maximum AA and secondary builds, respectively. So that's enough of talking about this ship in port. Let's go look at it in a battle video. Alright, so we're going to start off by reminding you that the Republique is really strong when she's able to get onto the enemy flank. And anything you can do to put yourself into the position to get broadside targets is only going to help you do more and more damage if you can get into those positions. We are in a tier 10 fight. There are carriers in this match. They are even tier 10 carriers. So this match is 100% legit. However, there's only 2 destroyers on each team. So, man, I guess that's a little bit of a caveat. Maybe it's not as legit as I originally thought. Oh well. Plenty of battleships to shoot at. This game is going to be... this is going to show the strength pretty heavily here. Map is Tears of the Desert, and it is Epicenter, or Tears of the Cruiser and Epicancer, depending on how you wish to word that. You can also see one interesting feature on Republique, and that is that we have a helicopter landing pad on the back. As far as I know, this is the only ship in the game that has a helicopter landing pad on the back. No seaplanes for this guy. So we've spawned in the north, and normally I'd at least try and make a little bit of an effort to get towards the south, but we're going to see as this battle goes on that that ultimately isn't going to be the direction this battle is going to flow. I don't want to give away too much, but this battle it takes a little while to develop, and you'll see what I'm talking about when the bell switches. And you gotta watch. This is a fun battle because it shows how capable it's not just this ship. You could honestly do this with a lot of tier 10 battleships. A Montana would be just as well suited. But what makes Republique so good at this is the fact that she can flex across the map and so easily, thanks to the speed boost consumable, thanks to very good armor, decent AA, well, actually quite good AA, and decent secondaries. So it looks like their team is kind of hovering towards the south. We're a little weak on the south side, so we definitely don't want to hang around here too long. I mean, we've got a Friedrich de Gross that's down here already, and one that's coming from the north. I think we could probably hang out here and duke it out, but you can see I'm switching guns left, and we're gonna start heading more towards the middle of the map to link up with our team. And if they push the southern side, the southeast corner of this, we'll kind of play a little bit of ring around the posy, and that's ultimately what's going to happen here. So at the beginning of all of these matches, it's really more about patience in the game, waiting to see where things kind of develop. But once you start opening fire with this ship, don't even expect to fall off of detection, because the reload time is 21 seconds. And at 21 seconds, you're off the radar for 1 second. And the way this game's rendering system works, that 1 second isn't going to mean jack diddly squat with how long it takes for you to dematerialize, as it were. And so, really, at this point, we're kind of hunting for targets. We got ourselves a broadside Bismarck. We're going to go ahead and shoot even though he disappeared. Yeah, you know, it is what it is. At this point, we're really waiting for the whole detection thing to work. Okay, 2 bounces on a Bismarck. That was basically broadside. A little perplexed by that. Would love to know where those shells hit, but can't really see that. We've got ourselves a Ibuki, which we shoot at. One thing to remember is this ship does not have the shell velocity that Richelieu and Alsace had. And so as a result, you definitely need to aim a little bit further forward. Oh, slamming on our brakes here. You can see, once again, we're already back up and ready to fire. So we're taking another pot shot there at the Ibuki before she disappears behind the island. Unfortunately, bumped into RNS Terror there. My bad, man. Yeah. And I said Grosser Kerr first in the chat. I meant Friedrich de Gross. But we got ourselves an overpen, so we finally have damage on the board. Secondaries are... I was about to type, just love the German sausage, and then I realized, hey, wait a minute. That sounds way worse than it should. Okay, shot out on the gearing. Secondaries are doing some work, but we missed with those. It does take a little bit of getting used to on the guns if you're not used to playing them all the time. So as you can see, we're pretty much bailing on this front. Our carrier has a whole bunch of aircraft down in the south. I don't really know what he's going to attack with them, but I do feel like he's going to make a useful contribution here soon enough. So, okay, so we've shot out once more on the Bismarck, and we're just going to continue to run this way. We've got our speed boost on. Dispersion not really helping us out too much. One normal pen for 47.85. Oh, hello there, Midway. Well, that's neat. Midway, this ship is actually reasonably quick, 30 plus knots. It's all about getting the aim just right. Kind of shooting at longer ranges, so any maneuvers he makes are going to actually hurt us a little bit. He looks like he's turning in. Okay, shots are finally coming out of the sky. We need more lead, but 62.35. One normal pen and an overpen. Okay, he's turning in. Don't really need to add a whole lot in the way of lead. Okay, another salvo out on him. Up to 12,470 damage. You can see we've really not had much time, quote-unquote, off the radar. And our whole team is doing a very good job of drawing their team and spreading them out while focus firing. Okay, we got one more normal pen and an overpen on that Midway. Now we're kind of hunting around for softer targets than this Montana. You can watch a smokestack. You can see he's backing up. So we put shot out. In-game dispersion system is going to screw us a little bit. We're going to keep looking around, make sure there's no destroyers nearby that can cause problems. And one bounce. Dang it. Okay, what about Dmitry Donskoy? Mr. Donskoy. Oh, Montana is shooting at me. Thank goodness we've got ourselves the speed boost on. You can see that speed boost comes in a big handy way. It just allows your ship to be just a little bit more, a little bit harder to hit. Only 2,000 damage there with a normal pen. That should have been at least 4,000 damage. But you know how it is. It's wargaming. So continuing on, at this point, it's kind of like, man, what is going to happen here? Okay, that gearing, both of our destroyers are dead, but their gearing is spotted. It would be nice to remove him from this game. Let's take a quick pot shot at him. See if maybe we can't contribute to his death a little bit. We overled him. I think he's slowing down to smoke up. Okay, so they're doing some work to him at least. Let's call him out. Oh, Friedrich de Grossen. Nope. So our Friedrich de Gross is, we got one behind us and the other one is ahead of us. And so now, we got no targets. If we keep going this way, we're going to be out of this fight for too long. So I'm going to turn around and I'm going to see if I can't get Mr. Penn to join me here. And we're gonna start working a flank because our team is pushing very, very heavily towards the southwest. And if we continue this, while we have the points advantage right now, there's no guarantee that we will continue to have said points advantage. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to try and turn around and assist the Dmitry Donskoy. We're going to try and assist him to the bottom of the ocean. We're going to try and assist our Friedrich de Gross, who's making that turn. Okay, so we've got the Donskoy also making what I would call a death turn. He doesn't know I'm here. I'm not detected, but he will now. Okay, so we've got shot out on him. Friedrich de Gross has shot out on him as well. And between the two of us, we managed to nearly kill him entirely. So now we're turned around. Donskoy has 1,900 hit points. Well, we'll call it 2,000. A cool, even 2,000 hit points. Shot out with the front gun. He's repairing the damage. Ooh, that center, those center two look like they could really put some punishment down. But, we got one normal pen that did 2,000 damage. That should have killed him. So far this game is not looking like it's going terribly well. We do have the points advantage, 410 to 395. Ship advantage, it's pretty even. They've lost a battleship, we've lost a cruiser. But right now, we're stealthed up. They don't know we're coming. And we have turned ourselves in such a way now that we can really influence this battle. So this is Dmitry Donskoy. We're going to wait for him to tunnel in on the Hakuru, which is being spotted by aircraft. I'm now spotted by aircraft. We're going to wait, and now we got a shot out on him. We can see we turned away from their team, and Citadel hit, down he goes. So we finally have our first kill of the match, sitting at 40,000 damage. Our Hakuru is safe for now. There's an Ibuki over there, but right now we're just kind of like in a holding pattern. What do we do? And this is really where the decision to push this flank came in as an advantage. We're going to shoot at this Worcester at long range, but the reason why I chose to push this is because our team is pushing so hard to the south. My thought process is that, one, I'm not being shot at by anyone. So if James Penn and I can actually push this this flank, we can really, really drive home some real big points here. So we're up to 41,000 damage, and I keep drawing attention to this damage marker because it's really important to follow that damage marker for a little bit here. Things are about to make a huge change for the better. Worcester has 85 hit points. Need to end that thing's life. Retarget him. Disappears. We got shot out on him, and the Friedrich der Grosse puts him out of his misery. RNS Terror doing some work, even though I booped him earlier in the match. So Mr. Penn is a little delayed in coming around to help me out here, and in fact, I'm basically counting on the fact that he's not going to be there. So really, at this point, our push is contingent upon our team pushing heavily on their side and drawing the bulk of the distraction. And what we're going to see here is the effect and utter panic that comes to an enemy team that realizes that they are now fighting a war on two fronts. So we got a Des Moines coming out, and I thought he was going faster than he was. Shot out. Slows down. Very good tactic. Manages to avoid all of my shots. I turn in. Oh no, sorry, he took 2,900 damage. Turn in, and he does 6k to me. Law balance. Okay, moving on. So at this point, we've got Friedrich der Grosse, we've got Des Moines. I would love to take that Des Moines out of this fight. Having two Des Moines in this battle is a huge advantage to them. We've got our guns are rolling, our secondaries are rolling. Hoping for Citadel. 5,800 damage, all on overpens. Okay, so we got to be really cautious with our damage control party here as well, because we don't want to get too aggressive with putting out fires, because we have a Friedrich der Grosse secondaries, a Des Moines, two Des Moines, actually, and those all can cause some serious heartache and problems. So we got shot out on the Des Moines, and yeah, 24,070 damage in one salvo. Des Moines is not presenting the world's best profile for this. One Des Moines is dead thanks to the work of the Zhao. We're going to try and line up another salvo here on that Des Moines. Maybe we can put that Des Moines out of her misery. Meanwhile, we have a bit of a risk here. Oop, there's 10,000. We're going to set our secondaries on them. We got a bit of a risk here. This Friedrich der Grosse could have rammed. In fact, I would have probably said that would have been a fair trade. But you see, I'm splitting the difference here between the two. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a different set of secondaries working on this Friedrich der Grosse, while the other one is working on the Des Moines. And there, the Friedrich der Grosse is broadside, so there's 8k. We're taking some damage. Taking some damage. He gets some pretty good salvos off here. Turning in, our secondaries take out the Des Memes. Can we get the double kill? We couldn't be that lucky. Nope. Another 8k. We got a fire on him. Our secondaries are doing some work. Rear turret's coming up. These pirate broadsides, he's obviously on the reload. And down he goes. So right there you can see we have 3 kills. Just in, well, two kills that worked right away. Our secondaries are doing some good work. Ibuki, really trying. We know he's launching torpedoes. I got 10 seconds left. I've slammed on the brakes. Okay, first salvo out on the Ibuki. It's a miss. I need a little bit more lead, and 4th kill. So within about 5 minutes, we went from 40,000 damage to a solid 131,000 damage. But I'm not done yet. We've got enough for... Can we get these salvos off? Okay, 1 salvo. Click, 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 click. Oh, it came up right as I fired. We got a Citadel on the Midway. But that's going to be the end of the match. The Midway is going to burn out. Kraken denied. Oh, you can see just how quickly when you get on a flank with this ship and you can cause panic and get broadside targets, the ship just racks up damage. 156,000 damage, 4 kills, a CQE, 2,221 base XP. This ship is an absolute riot. We also tanked only 1.2 million potential damage, so not a lot. You can definitely get more than that. But you can totally see the potential of this ship. This ship is just a riot to play at tier 10, even if you're not in a full-on secondary build. Anyway, I hope this video has helped. I'm your Peacekeeper. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for watching.